Hi, today I am talking about and giving my review of the book The Deepest Breath by Meg Grehan. So this is a novel in verse, and I've read a few of those before. Recently I got the idea to go on my library's website and look up all the novels in verse that they had in their system across all the libraries in the county. I never thought to do that before, but I wanted to see what they had, so I looked through them and picked out a few of the ones that looked most interesting to me. So you will probably be seeing a lot of reviews of novels in verse coming up soon, including this one. This was the first one that I chose to read, I think partially because of this beautiful cover. It's kind of cartoonish, but has like the ocean. It's really cute. There's also some constellations at the top. Goes on to the back. Very nice. I'll have to see who designed this to shout them out. I'm not sure if it says on here. I mean, it has who did the hand lettering and interior design, but that's not the same thing. Well, in case I'm missing it or it's not there, I'll look it up and put it on the screen if I find it. Anyway, I wanted to read more novels in verse because they're usually pretty easy to read, and I don't always love them. In fact, there is one that I've DNF'd, not out of this recent batch, but one from last year. But usually they don't take very long, because as you can see the way they're written, there aren't a lot of words on the page. It's broken up very easily in a poetic format. And already this book isn't very long. Like, even if this were a regular novel, it wouldn't have taken me that long to read. But I have been reading kind of slowly lately and reading smaller books, and I am going to get to larger books soon. Well, maybe not soon, but maybe within a month or two. So I thought that these would be a good thing to read in the meantime. So these are sort of books that I can get through kind of quickly, not mainly to add more books to the number I've read, but just to have something I can read. And because even though they're novels in verse, they can still be really deep and really good. I've read some that I really enjoyed. These books can also be good for people who are trying to get back into reading or trying to get into reading at all, especially kids, because they aren't as intimidating as a regular novel, in my opinion. So I think that they're great. I'm glad that they exist, and there seem to be a lot of them nowadays. I hear about a lot, especially in the middle grade category. So anyway, this was my first time reading anything by this author. She is an Irish author, and although I don't think the book ever states it, I assume that the story takes place in Ireland. I did see the idea from the channel An Autistic Reader to talk about the countries that you visited through fiction. I think that was like a reading challenge or something she was doing, and I decided I would do that for this year. So I'll probably make that video at the end of this year or beginning of next. I thought about doing it for last year, but reading World War Z made it kind of confusing because there were so many countries, and I don't think I was starting at the beginning of the year, but since the beginning of this year, since I already had the idea, that makes it easier. So this book adds Ireland to that list, and so far there has also been Canada and Japan. And I said fiction, so I'll only be including fiction books that I read, not nonfiction that takes place in other places. But I think that's a fun little thing to think about since I've never actually been out of the country in real life, but with books I can sort of explore them that way. So this book is about an 11-year-old girl named Stevie. She lives just with her mom. She basically said that her dad is somewhere far away, so he's not living with them anymore. And this is basically just a contemporary story about some of the things going on in her life. Mainly there are a lot of things that she is curious about and wants to learn. She likes knowing things. That helps her feel in control. She also struggles a lot with anxiety, scary thoughts, nightmares, things like that. And she also has this classmate, Chloe, who she really likes, but she has like feelings about her that she's trying to figure out what they are, and she doesn't know if they're right or what exactly it is, and so she's struggling with that. One of the things she wants to learn more about is the ocean, hence the ocean cover. And so she learns quite a bit in this book about different sea creatures and things like that. So that was one cool thing about this. It was educational. I learned a bit about different kinds of sea creatures. She has a pretty good relationship with her mom. I think they're really close, and her mom is really good at listening to her and helping her. But even then, there are still some things that Stevie struggles to talk about with her or struggles to really find the right answers to. So some of this takes place at school, some of it takes place at home, and then some of it goes over what's going on in her mind and the nightmares she has. I enjoyed seeing Stevie and her relationships and the way that she described the people she liked. It wasn't just like, this is my best friend and this is my mom. Like, she was able to give and describe reasons why she liked these people and certain traits about them, and I liked that. I thought it was nice seeing the way that she thought about them and how much she liked them. Her relationship with her mom especially was warm, sweet, and cozy. I think that the author did really well with describing thoughts, feelings, and experiences in a unique and poetic but still understandable way, because sometimes when people are speaking in metaphors all the time, it can be kind of hard to understand what they mean. And this book is middle grade, so I think it wouldn't be too difficult for younger people to understand. But this does have some good metaphors that aren't completely detached from what's actually happening. And I think that this book can remind us to be empathetic towards kids who are going through these feelings for the first time. As time passes, we may forget how that felt, but also not everyone experiences it in the same way. And I could definitely relate to a lot of this, not when it came to having a crush on a female classmate, but mainly the anxiety stuff. I thought the way that the author wrote that was done really well. This book had a fun, easy to follow along with writing style for the most part. I say that because it's pretty easy to understand what's going on, but there were just a few instances where I felt like I had to read something more than once because the way the punctuation in this book is there are exclamation points, question marks, and quotation marks, but I don't think there were any periods, and so there were just like a few instances where I thought a certain sentence had ended, but it was actually still going. Just a few things like that, but it wasn't too difficult. But I know some people, when it comes to novels in verse, they feel like those stories don't need to be told in that way, and they would have been better as a novel. And I mean, I'm not going to tell the author what to do because that's how she chose to tell the story. I personally don't mind novels in verse. As you can see, I've read quite a few of them at this point. And so, yeah, that type of writing isn't going to work for everyone, but I don't mind it and I think it can be good. And if you don't mind it, especially if you like poetry, then you might like this. I love seeing all the kinds of representation that kids have in books today, even compared to when I was in elementary school, which wasn't that long ago. Well, it was 10 years ago, but still, I think it's nice to see what they have now. That can be really useful for them. I really liked some of the ideas and messages in this. This was one of the many books that gave me a perspective I haven't really experienced, but I can imagine how much it must mean to people who read this and can resonate with it, especially if they've never seen these thoughts or experiences in a book like that before reading this. And I think that this book does show the importance of representation, and it also shows the importance of libraries and librarians. But yeah, I can definitely think about how much certain kinds of representation can mean to some people, knowing how my kind has meant for me. I think it's definitely a great feeling to read or see something with someone describing a certain experience that you may have, especially if you didn't know how to put it into words before. And then that can help you share it with other people and then they can understand it better too. I definitely enjoy reading about experiences I can't relate to, not just the ones I can. I think it's really helpful as humans can be very diverse. I felt like some of the questions in this book weren't answered, but I'd say the main conflicts were. There were just some little things here and there that had been mentioned that I feel I didn't really get closure for, but apparently this is not a standalone. I had thought it was, but I saw someone on Goodreads say something like maybe the sequel will do something. I don't remember what they said. And I looked it up and apparently, so this book came out in 2019 and a sequel, I think it's called The Brightest Star, was just released this past August. And I would definitely be interested in reading it. I don't feel absolutely desperate to, but I'd like to. Currently, my library doesn't have it, but if it does, I'll get it. I probably wouldn't want to buy it. But it's the kind of thing where if the library has it, I'll borrow it. And then perhaps I can get some more answers. But I'm not too unsatisfied with how the story ended. It was fine. I liked it. I thought it was pretty good. It's just that I felt there was nothing indicating that this wasn't a standalone. I think maybe there could have been, or maybe that was the author's intention at the time and she didn't know there was going to be more. So even now, I don't know how many books there are going to be. It could just be a duology, or I mean, sometimes authors don't intend to write more in a series and then they do later on. So maybe she doesn't want to have a strict rule for that. I don't know. But yeah, apparently this will have at least 2 books to the series. Ultimately, I thought this was a pretty good, important book that had some nice writing that really described things well. I would give it a 4.75 stars. On Goodreads, I gave it 5 to round it up. But since I use Storygraph now as well, which I would say Goodreads is still my primary thing for tracking books, but I do also use Storygraph and they have some more options. And for the video, I'd say it's more of a 4.75. If you've read this book or anything else by this author, I'd love to hear your thoughts, and thank you for watching.